Okay.
Blues have an upsetting loss. You mind if I say that?
No, yeah. What's your opinion? I'm Mark Malusis. We'll look back at what could have been Game 3 in Tampa.
I'm Joe Messeri. We'll find out how that 2-0 lead by the Rangers evaporated and take a look at the series overall.
I'm Todd Ehrlich. Everyone knows an NHL playoff series doesn't start till the home team loses on home ice. What has begun is this podcast from high above 42nd Street in the heart of New York City.
This is the Pix 11 New York Sports Nation podcast.
As always, please rate and review us. We're everywhere you want to be. Spotify, Apple, Google Play, the Pix 11 website, YouTube. I think a friend just shared it with you via MP3 on your old, what do they call those? iPods. Yes, iPods.
I got one of those.
There you go.
And you know what? I'm
sure
a
you
friend.
do.
I'm probably the one that shared it. Up 2-0 in the game. Up 2-0 in the series. The series was teetering on being over. And then it wasn't. Now the Rangers have to rebound from a brutal last-minute loss. Moose, psychologically, how do they bounce back?
Yeah, I think they'll play. I mean, I think they'll play much better in Game 4 than they did in Game 3 on the whole. You expected Tampa was not going to get swept in this series, and I never really thought it was going to be a short series. So it's not all that surprising that even without Braden Point, that the Lightning played a significantly better game on Sunday. They had 51 shots on goal. The Rangers had 51 shot attempts in the course of the game. They peppered them. Third period, the ice was clearly in the Rangers' defensive zone. They were dominating the play, even though they entered that third period down 2-1. They get the power play goal, and then they get the beautiful play by Kucherov to Palat to win it, late in regulation. So, yeah, I mean, I think the Rangers, the big key now is going to be the health of Ryan Strome. We'll get an update on Monday because he's, part of their main power play unit. He's been a guy that's been a massive facilitator. You can move Barclay Goodrow up in the lineup. I get that, but Strome has been really good for this team. I think they'll play a much better Game 4, but Tampa's found their legs here in this series.
It's funny because I don't think they played a poor game until they went up 2-0. I mean, the shots were pretty even early on in this. Tampa didn't look as desperate as I expected them to come out and look. Let's not forget we had Gaudreau miss a shot on the breakaway off a great pass by Miller that just went off the post. I mean, they were in this game. It was just a competitive back-and-forth game, in my opinion. But yeah, once they went up 2-0, it changed. They got so much more defensive. They tried to pack it in, and from that point, they just completely could not get the puck out of their own zone. And in the third period, I think they got outshot 19-6.
That's not good.
You can get outshot if you're the Rangers. We've seen them win. But when you're outshot by 21 for the game, 19-6 in the period, I mean, you're just asking Igor to do too much. And that's what it came down to in the end here, in my opinion.
Joe, it really seemed like the Lightning really upped their game and started to play desperate after that Kucherov goal. Did you see a complete different style or some desperation in their game?
Yeah, I think they uglied up the game a little bit at points throughout. And I actually don't think that was working for them because we saw the Rangers get the 2 power play goals. And then I think they just started to skate a little bit faster, right? That desperation came out in a way that the Rangers were just trying not to let that lead slip away. Even when it was tied at the end of the regulation, I thought this, and Moose said he thought it was going to overtime.
Absolutely,
they were
it
just
was going to overtime.
But they were just dumping and chasing. They weren't even trying, I felt like, to mount an offensive attack there because they were so exhausted from getting the puck out of their own zone that in the end, Tampa was the only team on the offensive at the end of that third period. And ultimately,
for the whole third period.
It came back to bite them. Yes, but especially there at the end. Like that last from 2.5 minutes, I felt like the Rangers weren't even trying that mountain attack there. They were playing for overtime. Tampa wasn't.
Yeah, well, I think you're probably right. I think they were probably exhausted, and the Lightning had all the momentum going in their way. And let's be, I mean, Shesterkin was great. I understand people could look at some of the goals that he let in and say, well, maybe the first goal by Kucherov was a little soft one.
No, he was great today. He was great.
Well, no, I think the first one was soft. I think the second one by Stamkos was an unbelievable shot, and I think the third one was a very, very very difficult stop to make. But Kucherov was the best player on the ice for Tampa Bay.
Yep.
They love setting up the slap shots. They did that with Stamkos for the game-tying goal. They took advantage, and Tampa Bay went into their third period understanding that the entire season is on the line in that period, and they played like it. Can the Rangers rebound? Yeah, the Rangers can rebound. They were really, really healthy. Now they're not. We'll see exactly where Strome is, come Tuesday night, Game 4, and what the update is on Monday. But, Tampa's the two-time defending Stanley Cup champs for a reason, and Vasilevsky looked a lot better on home ice than he did at the Garden.
Absolutely.
What's your biggest concern, Moose, coming out of that game? Do you have concerns psychologically that they're up 2-0 and then, obviously it's looking like it's going overtime?
I don't have a psychological. No, because they were down 3-1 against Pittsburgh. They were down 2-0 against Carolina. They were down 3-2. They were 5-0 in elimination games.
Mentally tough.
Yeah, I think they're a mentally tough team, Tom. I don't.
So you're not worried, Moose?
No. I wouldn't say. I don't think they're. I'm not worried about them melting down. Like I'm not worried about the
third period.
Yeah, the psychological impact of blowing a 2-0 lead in a Game 3 when you have an opportunity to lead that series 3-0.
Put your skate on their throat.
Yeah,
Moose.
I
They
know.
could put their skate on their throat.
I don't think that's going to hang on them. I think Tampa. I think the one thing about Tampa is that they found themselves. So they're really, really good. Understand what they need to do in order to be successful. I think, playing the East-West game, getting Shesterkin to move in the net, that was clearly something they were trying to do. They were also trying to get traffic in front of the net, something Gallant mentioned, and rough Shesterkin up, that he wants the NHL to take a look at going into Game 4.
In all fairness, though.
They wanted to make it as uncomfortable as they could for the Rangers. So those were things I'd be a little bit worried about, because clearly the Rangers have gone to task on high blocker side on Andrei Vasilevsky, and clearly the Lightning were looking for something, and their whole thing now is get traffic in front of the net, getting them moving east-west, side to side with those, and they love setting up their slap shots. So that's going to be something. And if you get Kucherov and Stamkos playing at an elite level, they're as good as it gets as a dynamic pair in the NHL.
Listen, you talked about Gallant there saying he wants the league to take a look at all the stuff with Shesterkin. I have no problem, Coach, looking out for his star goalie. But Igor is getting a little too much with the theatrics. If you saw that where he threw his goalie stick
plays on Broadway,
after getting
doesn't he?
tapped,
Yes,
I
he
know.
does.
And
I'm just saying, maybe he could
It was
get
a great
Tony.
acting
he could
job.
be auditioning
Stanley
for a
Cup
play.
and
Against
Tony?
Corey Perry, yeah.
Yes, right?
Corey
In the
Perry.
same, right? It'd be
Yeah.
fantastic.
He could be auditioning for a
It
play.
was
maybe
great. It
over
was a
there.
good acting job. He sold it.
He has
I
sold
bought
it,
it.
but the problem is when you sell it that much and it's that obvious in retrospect, maybe you don't get the next one. I think he would have had the penalty anyway, and I do think it was a penalty.
Yeah.
But it's a little bit too effusive in his slapstick acting methods there, I think.
Yeah, well, it's fair. I mean, that was an acting job. If you haven't seen it, just hop on social media. It's all over the place, and people are kind of mocking out Shesterkin. But you see that at times. He was great. He wasn't the reason why the Rangers lost.
Not at all.
They had bad turnovers. I mean, they really did. When they had that, when you had the double minor late on Kucherov,
Gotta capitalize.
on Mika
I thought that was
Zibanejad.
it.
Yeah, you thought
that
at that
was it.
9.5 minutes to go,
Right.
Ferraro on ESPN is saying this is the 9.5 minutes, most important 9.5 minutes in the Lightning season. And then a minute 46 later, you have Trouba
Can't do that.
tripping up Alex Killorn
Yeah,
as he was
Trouba
going in
can't
for a
take
breakaway.
that penalty.
And that
played
negates
smart.
the power play.
Yeah.
Because at the very least, the way the power play was clicking, they had two power play girls early on. It's been a weapon this entire year. You thought at the least the Rangers were going to score at least one goal there.
In 4 minutes, absolutely.
And they got nothing.
It's a
And
bad
it was a
penalty.
Look,
It's a
it was a
bad
rough
penalty.
game for Trouba. He's been great throughout the playoffs. He's had some really good moments, but this was
He's
a
had
rough
some
game
big
for
hits.
Trouba. This might have been his worst game of
Trouba
the
train.
playoffs so far. Yeah.
Yes, it was.
I would take that train.
Well, you
don't
don't want to be
think
standing in
so.
front of it.
I don't think you
No,
would.
no,
You
no.
don't want to be standing in
I'm the
front of that
caboose of
train.
Todd,
train.
if you
it's
got
going
on-
to run over the Moose.
If you would take
the
on that
Moose,
train,
the Moose
I don't think-
predicted
I don't think-
Carolina.
I don't think you'd be
in
here for the-
7 games. It's going to be in front of
I don't
that
thi-
train.
I don't think you-
I'm the caboose. I'm
I
going to
don't-
run over the Moose.
Thank you,
I've
Todd.
been on the Rangers train the whole time, Moose.
Wow.
I'm just saying.
So
Have I or have
what
I
I've
not?
learned here is that Ehrlich wants to hop on a train that runs me over. Fantastic.
That's what you just learned.
That's what I just
said
learned.
that. You were
That's
trying
good.
to put me in front of that train. I saw where you were going.
I feel like I'm home.
I saw the headlights. Welcome home. I'm not going to make you sleep on the couch, Moose. That'll
Every
never
night,
happen.
every night. That's a different podcast.
All right,
though.
so that is a very different podcast. So can Tampa keep up the intensity that they showed in the at least second half of the third period for the entire game 4.
I mean, look, I don't know if any team can keep that up for an entire
what
game
I'm
because they
saying.
were going hard the whole game. That they were going extremely hard that third period. I think if the Rangers play back and go into that passive mode that they were doing, then yes, Tampa can take advantage of that. But I don't think the Rangers will. Look, you knew this team wasn't going to go down without a fight. They're defending Stanley Cup, 2-time defending Stanley Cup champions for a reason in here, and these guys were going to give them their best shot, especially in Game 3 at home. I think they can't relax. And that's the thing that I think people, you asked before, do you think the Rangers are going to collapse? Do you think they're in trouble psychologically? No. As Moose said, this team is proven. They had so many times that if they were going to fold in these playoffs, they would have folded already. Gallant has this team mentally right. It's not about what the other team's doing. It's about what we're doing.
Burpees again tomorrow.
Burpees. Burpees also very draining.
Burpees
It's very
are very
draining.
hard.
It's very draining.
All right, I'm thinking about my last training session.
Imagine doing burpees on skates.
Yeah,
there
no.
you go. That's
Could you
another thing
imagine?
there.
No, I
That'd be very
can't. That'd be
difficult.
very, very
Very
difficult to do a
difficult.
burpee on.
But he'll have them. I mean, look, he'll have them psychologically ready. And if Tampa tries to exhale as though we've got Game 1, we're good now, the Rangers are going to take advantage of that. This is the Eastern Conference Finals. These are two of the best teams in the league playing some of the best hockey in the league right now for a reason. And so I think it's going to be a tightly contested series. I expect the Rangers to come out and give them another scare in Game 4, whether or not they can get over the hump. We'll see.
Yeah, I think this is really going to show, Game 4. I think they're going to have to take Tampa's shot early on. I think Tampa's going to want to try and take it to them early. If Tampa can withstand it, the big equalizer has been Shesterkin all year long. I would imagine the Rangers will get power play opportunities because they have in the first 3 games, so I'd imagine that would continue. The Lightning have showed you at times being very frustrated, getting a little chippy with the Rangers. The Rangers overall, I think even if Strome can't go, I think there's more quality depth to the Rangers. Doesn't necessarily mean they win the series, but I still think they're a better team, and they've carried the play most of it. They had a bad third period. Up until that point in time, they had a 2-1 lead going into the third. Tampa was desperate. Shesterkin was great, and they end up giving up 2 goals in the third period, 1 late on a great pass by Kucherov. You know what? That happens in the Stanley Cup playoffs. You can't expect them to sweep away as good of a team as Tampa Bay. So I'm not overly concerned. Now, if they get whitewashed in Game 4 and lose a game like 4-0, 5-1, and the Lightning are rolling, then I think there's a reason to be a little concerned. I don't think that's happening. I think the Rangers will have just as good of an opportunity winning Game 4 Tuesday night as they did on Sunday afternoon.
I don't think that's happening either. But let me say, I think that Game 4 is going to be more critical even than Game 3 was because you have that cushion obviously going in. So that's obvious right there. But the fact of the matter is I heard somebody say it on the broadcast that the Rangers look like they were deferring, and they are playing the defending 2-time Stanley Cup champs. And if they do think like, okay, we're going to be overmatched at any point in the Stanley Cup playoffs, this might be the series where they think, okay, if we let them even the series at 2 games apiece, these are the Stanley Cup champs, and that starts to sneak into the back of their brains a little bit more, and they defer too much. But I think these Rangers need to be just more aggressive. When they've done it, I think they've played some of their best hockey. It's when they've gone there and been a little hesitant. And it happens on the power play, too. I feel like they give up these, even if they don't give up a goal, they give up these rushes the other way when the team they're playing is short. Right, exactly. And the penalty today was because they were on the power play. Like, that has been their Achilles heel, is those untimely lapses, I should say, when they're on the power play. And the special teams is going to be, I think, the reason they win or lose this series.
So if I was going to put together a blueprint for a Game 4 win, you know what I would do? I'd have Mika with the goal. I'd have Kreider with the goal.
Yeah.
Shesterkin standing on his head. Well, that's what they did in Game 3. So the question is, can they win Game 4?
Yes, they can absolutely win Game 4. And look, the whole thing about the top line, right? They've been fantastic. I mean, Mika, what he has done this playoffs, I mean, far beyond what I thought he could do. And I had a lot of respect for Mika Zibanejad, but he is a star. And it is incredible for him how he's elevated himself in this game. I think it was his 6th power play goal of the playoffs, which tied a Ranger record. I mean, the guy was behind McDavid and Draisaitl for most points in the playoff series, and just the connection between him and Kreider is great. And if it's not him, the goal that Kreider had is off the shot of Mika that Kreider's in front of the net where he's been all season there for the rebound. So, look, I think these top lines, though, for both Tampa and the Rangers are, if the Rangers are going to win, they're just going to have to play even the top lines. I think you said it, Moose. The strength for the Rangers in this series is that depth. So if they can take advantage on the second and third line, the good line as we've been calling them, that's where the Rangers really have the advantage, and that's where they're going to need to outplay Tampa.
Well, and you saw a couple of things. Number one, I mean, great point about Zibanejad. I was listening to our buddy Don LaGreca, who joined us on New York Sports Nation a couple weeks ago in between periods as I was driving down to the studios today. LaGreca played a cut from the head coach Gerard Gallant where he said, it was asked about his impressions of Zibanejad before he became a head coach and after. He said, well, the book on Zibanejad around the league was that when he's hot, he's really hot, but he has a tendency when he cools off, he really disappears and doesn't have any impact. And he said that couldn't be further from the truth. 99% of this year, he's been great offensively and has been great defensively. But I think everyone in this city, if you're not a big hockey fan, you know exactly who number 93 is. He's fantastic. The other thing that you saw, the adjustment that Tampa Bay made on Sunday was they were all in 11 forwards in Game 1 and Game 2, and they went on Sunday and they went with 4 full lines and played 12 forwards and 6 defensemen. They put in Nash, they took out Foote, the defenseman, and you saw Stamkos talking about it in between the second and third period of Game 2. And I think they looked a lot fresher instead of 100%. Calling on those guys.
I said it in our last pod. I thought they were going to do that in Game 2. They didn't.
They didn't.
They didn't do it,
and they did it in Game 3. So if you're looking for a Rangers blueprint, to try, they can win Game 4. I don't think there's. I can't imagine. I thought the Lightning would win Game 3. Didn't exactly think it would play out the way they did with the Rangers blowing a 2-0 lead and looking good early on. The power play goals and the rally towels and Woolman Rink going crazy and the watch party. I didn't think it'd play out like that. Like I thought it would be I didn't think that would happen. But listen, I think you have every reason to believe that this Ranger team, the resiliency they've shown you, to now doubt them, I think you'd be foolish to think that they couldn't handle this kind of a loss. I think Strome's injury is going to be key. I think this is going to be anybody's game on Tuesday night. I think you'll go into the third period. I'd be stunned if the Rangers don't have an opportunity to win this game on Tuesday night and take a 3-1 lead.
Yeah, one thing looming in the background, too, let's not forget here, is Braden Point. I know Cooper said he's probably not going to be in the series.
If he ever comes back,
but
that's a game
every
changer.
extra game that this goes is an extra possibility that he comes back. And look, he led the NHL in playoff goals over the last 2 seasons.
And can we also say just how tough guys are? I mean, look at Barclay Goodrow, right? After Strome leaves, he jumps up to the second line. He takes a 98-mile-an-hour slap shot off of the stick of Victor Hedman in the third period. Leaves. He's hobbling back to the bench. He's a guy that suffered a fractured ankle in the Penguin series, Game 1 of this postseason, was out 25 days, goes back to the room, and you're like, oh my God, the Rangers are going to be down 2 forwards because Strome was already out of the game. And there he is back in the game late, skating up and down the ice. I mean, hockey players, and we all know this, but hockey players are just different. They're different beasts. They really are. I mean, it's insane.
And this time of year.
I don't know what the medical staff did to him, but they did something. He was back on the ice.
That's the part that scares me about Strome, is because he didn't really take a hit. He was just skating when he went off. And that's always those non-contact injuries. You see him in football all the time on the ice, too. That can be a scary injury, the fact that he wasn't touched there. Because I agree with you. He could have taken a shot. He would have been out there, unless he was dead. They would carry him out there on a stretcher so he could still play. This is the Stanley Cup, playoffs here.
It's a great. It's
awesome.
It's great. Like Ranger fans, I think there are a lot of people in this city that aren't. And Todd, you could speak that. I mean, a lot of people that all of a sudden don't know a blue line from a red line. Don't know a toe drag from a slap shot. But they're into this team. They're an extremely likable team.
Oh, they're like you. They're extremely likable. My favorite sportscasting animal, the Moose. Everyone likes them. All right, so here's the thing. I think the Rangers have money in the bank. And I think that what is not being talked about is the fact that they have home ice advantage. They've not lost in the playoffs. So even if they lose the next game.
They have lost in the playoffs. We talked about this against the Penguins, Game 1.
You do keep bringing that up.
I'm just want to make sure.
Good stories.
I know.
They're always getting away with good
why?
stories.
Here's why. Because I don't think you were at that game, and I think every home game that you've been at, they've won. And I think you weren't at that game.
Why was I not at that game?
I don't
Must
know.
have been a Friday or Saturday.
It was a mistake.
Yeah, I think it
Must have been a Friday or Saturday. Friday and Saturday are dedicated to Debbie and Jagger.
There you go.
But they do watch on TV. They both like their Rangers. Here's the point.
Did that game start? I'm thinking now. It must have, because you were at game 2.
Of course I was.
I was at game 2.
I was with you.
Yes,
We had a
that's
great
right.
time.
It was a Saturday.
It was
had
a
to have been
Saturday.
Saturday.
Had to have been.
Yes.
That's why I missed it. But they've won 6 in a row since then. Is
There
that
you
true?
go.
All right, I feel good about that. So the point is, they're good on home ice. They have game 5 and 7. So can't they go a little for broke in game 4? Can't they really try to win the game? Go for broke? Try to be a little bit more offensive. Take some risks. You know what I'm saying? Put everything on Shesterkin.
No. Well, they did. I mean, they did on. I mean, Todd, he faced 51 shots on Sunday.
Yes, but he could face
What do you
52.
Well, how many saves do you want to make? 80? 80
84,
80
85.
I think he did in that 3 overtime
I know, he
game.
did.
That's what he had there, and he needed one more. I go back to I don't think this team played that. I don't think they were putting it all on
Third period, they were awful.
until
When you hit upon it. Third period, they were dumping
it was a
and chasing,
different
getting
game.
rid
They
of the
went
puck,
up 2,
trying to use
They were
the
trying to
clock,
run out
playing
the
keep
clock.
away.
100%. And then, as soon as Tampa scored their first goal and broke the ice there, the Rangers changed
And
the
Tampa
way they
could
were
sense
playing.
it too,
Yes.
because they were surging.
They like a
Everything
wounded
was
animal.
in
They were on the attack.
Everything
Yes.
was in the end. They were knocking
Yes.
pucks out of the air. It was
Well,
just
the
a matter
ice
of
was
time.
tilted
Elliot,
loose.
the Kucherov pass.
Oh,
is one
yes.
of the
We haven't
great-
talked about that.
I mean, the Kucherov pass
So
is one
subtle,
of the,
so
It's one
smooth.
of the great passes you'll see. And I don't care what kind of game you're playing. Any game, that is an unbelievable pass.
And
Beautiful.
I watched the replay. Igor still got a pad on that,
I know.
right? He still got a pad, and it went in off there. It was just, sometimes it's better offense.
You know what? The other thing I was thinking when this game went final, because you're going to be there for Game 5. Is that you're going to finally be able to have the prime rib sandwich at Madison Square Garden.
Everybody talks about it.
I don't want to hear any excuses.
There will be no excuses.
No, because I've had it.
Yep.
Joe had it fully loaded.
Sal had it.
Was it worth it fully loaded? You had the
it was
cheese.
The one thing is, I needed
the
a
frizzled
nap.
onions?
I needed a nap, and that was the problem.
Did they take
frizzled
away from the
onions,
beef?
the mushrooms?
Was it
No.
still the same?
No, the flavors were out of this world.
I should have went.
They all
next
melded
time,
perfectly
frizzled
together.
onions.
And
We're
then
going
next time I'll
early,
go.
though.
But now you get to have it. Last time you wanted to go right before the game. It was 20 deep. I go, you got to wait. He goes, I'm starving. I'm starving.
I was starving.
And you went to go get the chicken sandwich.
it's not
You've
that
had the
good.
chicken sandwich
I know, it's not
every
that
time
good.
you're there.
It was a bad move by
Go
me.
get the prime
It was
rib.
a bad
You gotta
move
change
by
it up.
me.
There's a lot of good food at the
And then,
Garden.
Joe, I go get it 10 minutes to go in the first period, right?
Okay.
And so I'm sitting next to him eating it, and he's staring at me as I'm
It
eating
looked
it.
delicious. I got to be
And then he
honest
got
with
up
you.
and got a knish.
So
I mean, the
good.
knish is great. It's
good.
great.
It's fluffy.
All right, so
it's
if
light.
we're going there, then I got to say our producer Saul, when he came to that game with me, I forget which game it was at this point. Maybe it was game 1 of the series. But whenever we went and we had the prime rib sandwich, he also washed it down with a hot dog.
Yeah, he backed it up.
And this guy's like 140
prime rib
pounds
and a hot
and a
dog?
hot dog.
He backed it up.
140 pounds soaking wet. This guy
Yeah.
is right, and that's
for
when he's
him.
yeah
Right out of the pool.
yeah. So.
Soaking wet.
That's great.
It was
Yeah,
impressive. I don't know where the guy puts it, but
I have no
I
idea.
needed
And
a
it's
Did you
nap
get that
at
3-pound hot
intermission.
dog they sell there? It's like
No, he didn't do that. But it was
He didn't have
pretty
the
good.
money left on the press card
There
for
was-
that.
I don't think there was that prime rib sandwich fully loaded is like $22.
And
Yeah.
worth every
Did Saul get it fully loaded?
every single dollar. I think he got one thing on it. I don't think he
I
got it
just got
fully
the
loaded.
horseradish. The guy's like, I'll take care of
Really?
you.
I don't
Yeah.
know about that. I like the
should-
frizzled onions.
You should. I know. I think I made a mistake. Next time.
Yeah, next time.
If they make it to the
But we got
finals.
to go early. That's the
Next
whole
week
point.
on Garden Eats,
Right.
we'll check
The
out the
food is-
meatballs
the food
at
is
Tao.
amazing.
The food is amazing.
The food is great.
It's fantastic.
It really is.
Oh,
And the Rangers are great on home ice.
That
when
is.
they're there.
That is. You're right. You'll be there game 5.
Speaking of food, I'm starving
Okay,
right
so-
now. So before
all right.
I take this out on you, Todd,
So to finish this up, predictions for Game 4, predictions for the series, Joseph.
I think it's going to be low scoring like this one. I'm going to go 2-1 Rangers. They're
I
going to
love
take
that.
it. I think they're going to find a way to win down there.
What's the negative moose going to say?
I think the Lightning even the series.
You
I
see
think
what I mean? It's the
yeah,
negative
I think
moves.
it's going to be
We
3-2.
love him, but he's negative.
I think it's 3-2. I think the Rangers lose game 4, win game 5 at the Garden, and then win game 6 on the road in Tampa.
Really?
All right.
I like
That's
the Rangers in
positive.
6. Yeah, positive.
That I like.
But I think we're going to come back to the Garden for a game 5 series tied up at 2
I'm not
games
going to lie.
apiece.
If we're tied at 2, I'm going to be nervous in that game
Oh,
5
you're
at the
gonna be
Garden.
Oh my God. I'm going to be nervous.
We're all going to be
We're
nervous.
all going to be nervous.
That's Thursday night, right? Yes.
Yes,
I don't
Thursday
know.
night.
I can't keep
Yes.
my calendar. I don't know. I don't know what day
I'm
it is
going
today.
Thursday. Joe, you're going.
There we
right?
go. I'll be
Okay,
there
good.
then.
We'll get the
Done.
prime rib. And I think when we go, sadly, it will be tied at 2-2. But the Rangers, those fans will not let them lose game 5.
Negative Todd.
I'm just saying.
I've never
I don't-
heard him ever pick against a local team.
Well, we have the Giants and the Jets, and they're fantastic. That's why it's
Never.
easy to
God.
pick them. It's been
You're
bad.
you're like
Rose
Pinocchio.
like Pinocchio.
You're like Pinocchio.
But here's the thing: I see the Rangers winning in 7. That's what I see.
Joe's about to get up. He's starving.
On
I
guard
can
and
hear
ice.
He's like, I can.
I want to thank Joe for staying through dinner. I want to thank the Moose for everything he does. I want to thank all of you for listening. We'll see you next week on the New York Sports Nation Podcast.
You literally, I was salivating as we were talking about that over here.
Well, you
I
had
think
to
I drooled a
mention-
little bit on the table.
That's okay.